What happened on day what?
1 of F1 testing. Tommy, come in. Tommy, what's the vibes? How you feeling after seeing some running?
Well, we actually watched 9 hours because of a very peculiar thing, which we'll talk about. But yeah, it's good to see Formula One cars.
For YouTube watchers, you would have seen a very
You'd already seen the banter. And yeah, good to see Formula One cars back on track. Is testing the most riveting thing in the world after the first kind of initial hooray of Formula One cars? Matt says yes. Other people are saying no. But does it need to be? Something we'll also discuss.
No, it's literally testing. I remember when we were all up in arms when testing wasn't televised. We need to see it.
We need to see every turn,
inside
every
the gates.
spray of Flovis.
Yeah, and then should we have a race during testing? Hopefully not like that. But of course, we had lots of running today, and I think what better than to, because I would reflect on who was fastest if it was a certain Charles Leclerc, which it looked like it was going to be for quite a while. But it was Lando Norris in the end, and Leclerc wasn't even on the podium of testing day one, which is really upsetting. And it's fine. It's all good. No problem.
I said that the car screened fourth in the constructors, and it's backed up, hasn't it?
First question comes in from P1 Patreon member Kian LR. Championship back on? Really? We're rolling that out immediately?
Yes.
Is it going to feature in every single podcast, either championship back on or off?
Hopefully.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for including this one, Tommy. Look, everyone is going to dive very deep, as we always do, and come up with conclusions that are completely wrong. But the beauty of that is that it doesn't matter. You can throw any wild prediction at this point. You could say that Haas are running 400 kilograms worth of fuel, and they're just tooling around at the back, but actually are going to be second quickest. We've learnt very little in terms of pure outright speed, which is exactly the case. But I think we have to say it, right? Just in case some people's first Formula One season, perhaps second, perhaps they're not used to this. Not sandbagging, they're literally testing.
Yeah, exactly. The usual suspects are at the top, despite it being, you can't read too much into times and things, but it's no surprise to see the usual 4, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari at the top, of course.
And Carlos as well. You could easily mistake that he's still in a Ferrari, but he is not in a Williams. Not in a Williams. P5. Chefing.
But if you speak to... And I do think that drivers and teams know a little bit about if their car is good or bad, kind of straight out the blocks, and generally from the kind of simulations and everything. And, speaking to a lot of the drivers and people within Formula One, they are all saying that it does look like it's going to be incredibly close between the top 4 teams, which is, of course, what we want to hear, because the biggest worry going into the season is that it's the polar opposite of last year, where we're going with so much expectation and actually someone dominates, whereas it doesn't maybe look like that, hopefully, so far.
Which, you've got to really... give some serious praise to Charles Leclerc for doing that, being part of the pack, because he just didn't want to stretch his legs. He's a humble bloke. He didn't even exceed 5th gear from what I've heard. So
okay, yeah.
To be 4 tenths off despite that, getting out and walking around the final sector, it's really okay. It's sandbagging from Ferrari. Look, we're seeing it right now. I mean, Lewis Hamilton down in 13th.
I was going to say, if he was walking, what was Hamilton doing?
Backwards treadmilling. Okay, right. So, championship hopefully is on. Next question, P1 Patreon member Katie. Can both Mercedes drivers be legitimate title contenders this year? Tommy will say yes, because Tommy loves Andrea Kimi Antonelli like he is the second coming of Christ. However, do I think so? I think George Russell could, absolutely. But the thing that Mercedes need to do is open up that window of the tyres, which George, of course, was very critical about last year, but also the car performance in general in that Mercedes. We haven't got a massive regulation change this year. Some teams have even rolled out cars that look almost identical, Red Bull being one that genuinely people and journalists and analysts have been going, there's not a lot, actually, by the looks of things that you've changed. Although Christian Horner's saying there's a lot of subtle differences and things that you don't necessarily see on the outside of the car. So Mercedes, yeah, it depends on the philosophy for these teams and how they're approaching this year. By the looks of things, Ferrari are going all in to try and see if they can win this title before we get into the new regulations. You've perhaps got other teams like Red Bull on the outside and looking in and looking at the car that might be looking further towards 26 and beyond. So, yeah, it is an opportunity for Merck. I think that George is a fantastic driver and had a great season last year. So both know, let Antonelli just learn for a year. Let's not do that.
And then he can become the greatest of all time. No, wow. Joking. The thing with Mercedes as well, obviously a lot of people got very excited despite what people say about it's only testing. You know, Kimi Antonelli, when he was we did a watch along in the morning, and when Kimi Antonelli was 4 seconds off the pace for the first couple of hours, everyone said, oh, he's too early, he's finished, he's washed. And then he went top of the timesheets, and it's like, oh, he's looking good, isn't he? And it's hard to know from testing, but with Mercedes, something they did mention, of course, very unusual this weekend. You know, we've even seen a little bit of rain in Bahrain, and it's a lot colder. You're normally used to kind of Bahrain it being very hot, and but everyone's there in their coats and things, which is unusual. And we know Mercedes last year worked in that window of a lot cooler temperatures. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't want to jump the gun with Mercedes, but they've got an opportunity. I think they have kind of been written off, even in Formula One themselves, when they posted their 2025 is going to be amazing. They didn't even show Mercedes when they were talking about the championship fight, so obviously they're writing them off.
Next question, F1 Oscar. Which team do you think is sandbagging?
Hopefully Haas.
Haas. I am praying for their sake, Haas. They literally just tootled around at the back and just had a great time just doing laps. You know, we not slander, but we take the mickey about the fact they finished 19th and 20th. However, they are the team with the most laps on the board. So their run plan today was do loads of laps, do loads of mileage, test things on the car. Doesn't matter about overall performance or engine modes or things like that. And realistically, the real gold, the real currency of F1 testing is laps and getting data. And Haas are number one in the teams
P1,
with 160 laps.
Winners.
And then on the flip side of that, you have Aston Martin with the lowest amount of laps with 88. So Haas almost did double what Aston Martin managed to put on the board. So for me, yeah, again, I don't want to call it sandbagging because I don't think any of these teams are. They're just doing their run plans of testing, which never usually is like fuel load hot lapping.
I feel like maybe the days of sandbagging, while we love to use that phrase in Formula One, wheel it out when they're doing their kind of explainer videos and telling you what to look out for in testing. They say this, but maybe those kind of days are over because we don't tend to see it as much anymore. Teams are just focused on their own thing. And now that the regulations are a lot tighter and you don't tend to see as many crazy innovations anymore like you saw if you've watched if you were there watching at the time, or if you're a new fan and watched the Disney Plus documentary about Brawn, and they had that double diffuser, of course, and they came out the pits, they were so quick and they almost wanted to kind of hide that they had this amazing performance. I feel like days of that have kind of long gone, because the teams, are they going to find this like magic thing anymore when the regulations are so tight? And also in this kind of world where everyone knows everything and there's photographers everywhere and there's social media and all the teams know everything about each other, can you even hide anything? So sandbagging, it's only Haas are kind of sandbagging, but they're not even sandbagging because they're literally focusing on themselves and not going for a quick run.
Okay, so let's move on now to the weirdest moment from the session, which was not the fact that there was rain in Bahrain, which you might have thought would be the one we would choose. It's in fact that they had a power cut. Question from P1 Patreon member Erin. Has anything like this power issue happened before? It feels like a ridiculous issue to have with only 3 days of testing. Well, of course, it's narrowed down, isn't it, to have something like this happen, or at least something that would genuinely stop the teams from running, with the fact that there's lights that they'd need to see out on track. But I can't recall anything like this happening. in terms
No.
of having a power cut and it all
Not
going.
a power cut. I remember a couple of years ago, Australia, that weird moment where they didn't know where the cars were on track and they all started blocking each other because they lost all their kind of...
I want to say Imola as well. There was a problem with, or maybe that was more on the broadcast side. I can't remember, but there was definitely an issue with Imola a couple of years ago as well. But nothing, I think, to this degree. And of course, in testing as well. I thought there would be genuine backup power things and things to absolutely categorically not allow this to happen. But some substation or something that Bahrain's national circuit said failed, and that was that. Next question, P1 Patreon member, your boy Dre. Will Lawson have the same struggles as the past Red Bull second drivers with the way the car handles, or was he just pushing too hard? I absolutely love this. Poor Liam Lawson has one minor spin where he executes some pretty good car control to stop it from going in the gravel, and everyone's like, hold on, I've seen this film before.
Second Red Bull driver spinning off.
Really didn't. Look, I don't think this is something that we can even remotely jump on yet around Liam Lawson and that minor spin. I know it is literally the big moment that happened.
The only spin of
so
the
we're
whole...
just like, whoa, Lawson, I mean, come on. But look, it was P8. Okay, yeah, 9/10 off max, and I've seen that before as well. But it's testing. It's fine. Like, just let the guy get used to the Red Bull. Of course, as you say, yeah, the morning session is slower than the afternoon. One, because there's not any grip or rubber laid down, and two, it's hotter conditions as well. When it gets cooler, the tyres can work better. Of course, you know it's still pretty cold there as it is, but yeah, more so I guess the track evolution and the rubber being laid down.
It is definitely the way the car handles, though. I think we've learnt that now. You know, Max. There was that fascinating interview, wasn't there, with Alex Albon, where he mentioned about how the car is so sensitive and compared it to like having your computer mouse on maximum sensitivity. And so Lawson will have to get used to that. And, you know, we've seen so many incidents with that Red Bull second driver struggling with the car. It did look a handful in places. Max had his moments as well at that very same corner. You know, he didn't spin, but he had kind of these moments. And that is literally what testing is for. To kind of push the car to the limits, and particularly on a track like Bahrain, you're not going to get any kind of issues. You know, if that's at Barcelona, maybe you're going into the wall and taking off the front wing.
Next question comes in from P1 Pitch member Minerva. Should testing be made fun to watch, or is it enough to simply see it return for another season? Look, we joked about this on stream in the morning. Let's turn it into the 8 hours of Bahrain and have 3 races, okay? So we just do like the ultimate endurance test right
with
at the
2
beginning.
Drivers.
Yeah, 2 drivers. They can do 4 hours each, and 250 points up for grabs at the end of these 3 days.
So Haas
and if
won.
anything, yeah, Haas
won then 160 laps. They did.
Well,
so technically
no, they won
were 6 laps clear of the field.
That is true, actually. That's really true.
They've won that race. They got Aston Martin in the mud. They were last.
They were slightly muddy as it was, weren't they? Anyway,
they were.
But in all seriousness, no, testing should not be made fun. Not everything in the world for us as the viewer needs to be made entertaining, especially when it is literally. We're lucky that it's televised. We're lucky that we're shown things from this test, rather than how do we make this fun? Do we put some points on offer? Do we do some sort of lottery? Spin the wheel. You get to drive this car for. Spin the wheel again, 7 laps, then you come in. No, I think that, and I'm in agreement with you, Tommy, because you made this point earlier on the stream, it could be made shorter, for sure. I still think 24 hours of testing over 3 days, is that really necessary? From a team's perspective, of course they're going to say yes. They'll say it's the pinnacle of motorsport. We need to test. But they're going to say that because they want to win.
I think testing you leave alone, because it is literally testing, you know. But if you watched, this is the thing. It's literally testing, and we get it televised because probably just the pressure of how everyone was really annoyed when they didn't televise it, when they kind of went back on it and went, no, it's just a test. It's not really there to be entertaining. We're just going to do a test. And then when we didn't get to see it, we're all kind of like, no, we need to watch this. There's Formula One cars on track, and we're not watching it. But at the end of the day, any sport, you know, Wimbledon tennis don't televise the kind of knockabout at the start, and it doesn't get kind of shown as a live stream and everyone's tuning in. Same with kind of like before the Champions League final, you don't watch the teams training.
Okay, let's go to P1 Patreon member Emma. Have any of your opinions changed on the liveries after seeing them on track? Yeah, my opinion of the state car has got worse. A lot worse.
It is awful.
I don't know why they've decided that the fade, which we already were slightly critical of, then just becomes a block. It's a hard cut between the green and the black. It looks like that's like a spare bit of bodywork that they've just put on the car for testing. Now, whether that's actually the case, I don't know. But that is really quite bad looking, in my opinion.
Yeah, same. I thought, sorry, Ferrari, the stake is definitely the worst now. I think the green looks...
to Ferrari. Sorry, yes. Ferrari.
Sorry, Ferrari. It's still a 4 out of 10, but the stake is now a 2 out of 10. Yeah, it's awful. The green is really horrible as well. And I'd also changed my opinion on the Alpine. I think it looks even better on track, and probably one of my favourites with the V-carb, which I think right up there with the V-carb, which still looks amazing on track. I was worried that one might look a bit dull just on track, and it looks quite cool white under studio lights, but no, it looks wicked on track.
Certainly does. I think you also mentioned that you liked the look of the Mercedes a little bit more.
A bit more,
than you had previously. But yeah.
Aston looks a bit better, but yeah, it's cool to see them on track because you can get baited by renders, and Sauber certainly did that because, word, does it look
bad. Okay, let's go to Frank Ward 99, who asks, if you could change one prediction right now after only 1 day of testing, which would you change? Genuinely? No, I was going to say that Jack Doohan keeps his seat for the whole year. That's wild.
Right, yeah, I know. That is an interesting one, isn't it? That Jack is doing all of the test, my theory. Jack is doing all of the test.
Come on.
And, no Colapinto in through what I thought might be a kind of part of that big contract. I can still see that changing, but yeah, what do you think? A prediction change? Still Shell champion?
Oh, for sure.
Off,
without a shadow of a doubt. I think that I'm pretty. There's not much to change really at this point. You know, you've got to back what you've gone for. Ollie Behrman, yes, he did finish 5 seconds off day one.
Biggest flop.
But I still think at this point that is the benchmark. So anything above this is really well surprising. So that's points in the bag as long as he doesn't finish 5 seconds off the back at the end of each race.
My only thing is I'd have doubled down even more on Aston Martin being terrible, looking at they did the least number of laps and were near the bottom. And my bold prediction of them being scoring less than 50 points, I'd have gone biggest flop as well and saved Ferrari splashes. But I do think Ferrari will be maybe third or fourth still.
No one asked for your opinion when it comes to Ferrari's negative thoughts. So that one can go directly into the bin. But yes, I wouldn't change anything else right now, to be honest with you. But we'll see. Come the end of day 3, where we all start to analyse the times a little bit more.
When McLaren are 4 seconds clear, maybe I'll change our
to be fair, when Max
prediction.
went out for the afternoon session and within about 3 laps was within about 0.02 of a second of the fastest time
on the hard tyres or something. Yeah,
done. It's finished. Okay, that is it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. We will be live streaming probably a few hours tomorrow afternoon, and then we will do the last few hours again for the final day as well. So look forward to that. And also, if you want to listen to a short chat, myself and Tommy are going to pop something on P1 Extra, the YouTube channel, where we discuss the news on Monaco. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye.